Amazon's The Boys always delivers on sucker punches, comic-worthy one-liners, and Easter eggs for fans to speculate in every scene. But with so many hidden gems throughout each season, it's hard to keep up while enjoying every high-octane moment. So, we put together a quick recap of tiny details only the fans noticed from the first 3 seasons of The Boys. Now, die-hard fans of Eric Kripke's first TV masterpiece, Supernatural, might have noticed a few callbacks to one of the show's most beloved characters, Bobby Singer. Only Bobby is not a hard-boiled monster hunter in the world of The Boys. He's America's Secretary of Defense. He goes by Robert, and he's headed for the Oval Office. He's seen at the end of Season 3 campaigning in Sioux Falls, North Dakota, which happens to be the hometown of the OG Bobby Singer. We find out that Robert's constituents also call him Dakota Bob during a discussion he's having with Stan Edgar in Episode 1 of Season 3. But it's more than a reference to the character's name and hometown. Jim Beaver, the same actor who played Bobby, is back to play this new iteration in The Boys. Now, if all that weren't enough to convince you of this supernatural homage, Jensen Ackles' character Soldier Boy walks right by a Robert Singer campaign sign as he navigates the streets of New York in a daze. As we know, Jensen Ackles' character Dean Winchester was pretty tight with Bobby Singer in the supernatural world. And, while they may not be the best pals in The Boys, it certainly seems like these two find each other no matter what universe they're in. There's plenty of supernatural winks in Season 3, but it's also full of tiny details that help tie up some of the stuff we didn't see fully addressed at the end of other seasons. Remember Madelyn Stillwell's son, Teddy? Teddy was still a baby when an ugly situation unfolded between Homelander, his mom, and Billy Butcher during the Season 1 finale. An incident many fans were certain had ended in tragedy for both Madelyn and her baby. But thankfully, we were proven wrong at the start of Season 2 when a news anchor reported that baby Teddy was found miles away from the scene of the crime unscathed. Once fans heard the good news, all sorts of theories about Teddy being a soup started surfacing. No one was entirely sure how solid these theories were, but fans and internet theorists got the confirmation they were after when they saw Teddy in Episode 2 of the new season, a couple of years older, living at Red River and teleporting around a room filled with other soup orphans. Now that fans know Teddy is alive and well, we fully expect to see some ideas about his role in the Boys universe moving forward. We're pretty positive that Kripke and his staff of super writers won't disappoint. Jensen Ackles getting cast as Soldier Boy for Season 3 was exciting news for Kripke fans. What better way to connect Supernatural and The Boys than to have the man who played Dean Winchester for 15 years step into the shoes of the problematic soup antagonist of Season 3. But Ackles joining the cast wasn't the only wink to the Winchester fans watching at home. There were tiny details throughout the season that Dean was with them in spirit. One such detail flashed across the screen in Episode 5, when Mother's Milk is watching footage of Russian scientists experimenting on Soldier Boy. In a split-second shot, one of the Russian scientists mentions the date, January 24th. To some, this may not have seemed like an Easter egg at all, but die-hard fans immediately recognized the date as Dean Winchester's birthday. This is something Kripke would later confirm. And while it is Dean's fictional birthday, January 24th is also Deanna Kripke's birthday, who is, yep, you guessed it, Eric Kripke's wife. In short, January 24th is a very important date to the showrunner and to his fans, something he wasn't afraid to show with subtlety in this latest season of The Boys. Ryan Butcher might be one of the most tragic characters in The Boys universe, and that's saying something. His normal-ish life with his mother was interrupted in Season 2 by a psychotic father he didn't ask for. Butcher ends up, being Butcher and leaving him in the lurch in Season 3. And on top of all that, he has to carry the weight of his mother's tragic end on his shoulders. So it wasn't really too much of a surprise to see him go dark side in Season 3. In fact, if you watch the season finale closely enough, you might have picked up on an itty-bitty clue about Ryan's decision hidden in plain sight. Earlier on in the finale, we find Ryan and Grace at yet another safe house. Homelander shows up pretty quickly to convince his son to come with him. Well, that's the obvious hint about his destiny. What might be less obvious is the fact that Ryan is wearing a t-shirt that sports his dad's signature colors, red, white, and blue. This is the first time he chooses his dad, as his belief in Butcher is already dwindling. Cut to the final showdown at Vought Tower, and Ryan's wearing another red, white, and blue t-shirt. As we all know, by the end of episode 8, Ryan tells Homelander he wants to leave, sealing the deal on this little theory and the side that Ryan has chosen. It's no secret that Starlight loves Almond Joys. In fact, her affinity for the unpopular candy bars is made known early on in Season 2 and is referenced all the way up through Season 3. Now what's interesting is that where Annie adores Almond Joys, another soup seems to absolutely abhor them. We're speaking, of course, about Black Noir. Fans that stay current with the show know by now that Black Noir has a severe tree nut allergy, which is likely why he rejected the one that Annika offered him in the crime analytics lab in episode 4 of Season 2. But he doesn't just say no to Annika's offer. He stares her down silently, pulling a trash can out and signaling her to throw it away altogether. This may not have seemed like much at first, but eagle-eyed fans insisted this was the first clue to Black Noir's kryptonite. It's a compelling argument, especially because in the same episode, Annie tells Huey about her love for Almond Joys at a motel vending machine. He replies by telling her that only a serial killer would enjoy that sort of candy bar. This was a nice moment for the couple. But it was also a hint about how something that Annie loves would later protect her from Black Noir's attack. This all comes full circle when Maeve shoves an Almond Joy in Noir's mouth, saving Annie and telling her to get away. Soldier Boy's explosive debut in Season 3 was memorable to be sure, but it wasn't the first time that fans got a glimpse into this character and what he would eventually bring to the table as the headlining villain. Believe it or not, Soldier Boy is actually mentioned in the very first episode of Season 2, open on Homelander and Stan Edgar discussing Vought's sordid history. In Stan Edgar's explanation of the company origins, he mentions Soldier Boy and even expresses how efficient he was at fighting Germans in World War II. This is the very first sneak peek that fans got at Soldier Boy and some of the things that would later be revealed about his character. But that's not all. Fans also got a look at what Soldier Boy would stand for, both literally and figuratively, in episode 7 of the second season. At the end of the episode, Homelander and Stormfront are speaking at a rally filled with hateful people and their antiquated beliefs, to put it very politely. As the shot pans out, away from the rally, we get a crystal clear view of Soldier Boy's statue holding a gun, with the rally and the American flag in the backdrop. Now there's no way to be sure, but to us, it seems like a pretty strong foreshadowing of Soldier Boy's true character and the ideologies he hopelessly tries to defend throughout Season 3. Now, we all know that Stormfront was an absolutely terrible person. She was a bigot in the worst possible terms. But when she joined the Seven, her blatant bigotry and sinister agenda were hidden beneath a well-composed veneer of edginess and a superhuman level of confidence. Go figure. But as the second season progressed, her well-constructed mask began to slip little by little. The first time fans really caught a glimpse at the depths of Stormfront's bigotry was in episode 3 of the second season. You might remember it as the one where the boys ram a boat into a whale. Accidentally, of course. And when they do, they're greeted by Chase Crawford's character, the Deep. By this point, the Deep has already been fully indoctrinated into the Church of the Collective, a Scientology-esque cult with a thing for Fresca. When the Seven shows up to do damage control, the Deep explains what he's learned since leaving. He says the phrase, "Renew my light." Stormfront asks if he's joined the Church of the Collective. He confirms, and she calls him an idiot. This is all pretty standard, except the part where Deep responds by saying, "Watch the religious persecution." And that seemed like a pretty significant hint about the agenda Stormfront was pushing and the depths of her hatred. The Boys is seamless in the continuity that's woven into the story. One of the best examples of this are the Tony Cicero's restaurants that are regularly mentioned throughout the show's first 2 seasons. At the beginning of the first season, the Italian family restaurant is where Frenchie, Huey, and Butcher handle the translucent situation. And this is the very first time we see them working as a team. After they figure out how to stop Translucent, the team moves on to other locations, and we don't really see anything about Tony Cicero's again. That is, until the very beginning of Season 2, when Butcher wakes up in the parking lot of the restaurant chain after finding out that his wife Becca is still alive. The restaurant's name is dropped again when Butcher finally returns to his post with the boys, and he explains to them that he woke up in a Tony Cicero's parking lot and he isn't sure why. And truthfully, we're not entirely certain either, but one thing is for sure. Tony Cicero's was a hell of a location to jumpstart the first 2 seasons of this show, and who knows, maybe it'll make a reprisal in the seasons to come. Now in Season 2, the Deep takes another leap in his journey of self-actualization by joining the infamous Church of the Collective. We want to believe that there is an ounce of sincerity in his decision, but like most things the Deep does, it's mostly just misguided and weird. Fans got their first taste of just how weird the Deep's latest pursuit would be when they noticed that Fresca was featured in pretty much every scene a Collective member was in. Eagle first offers the Deep a Fresca after bailing him out of jail. From there, the drink is seen repeatedly throughout the first episode of the second season and onward. Our personal take was that Fresca might be an analogy for buying into a cult's mission and belief structure, even if you know deep down that there are better things out there. But sources say that it was really an in-joke between Kripke and the writers of the show. Something about Fresca being the most fitting soda selection for a group like the Collective. But who knows? Now we've discussed some of the best Easter eggs, winks, and tiny details in Seasons 2 and 3. But the first season of The Boys is also rife with some winners. The Keep Your Hands Clean poster hanging between Huey and Translucent in Episode 2 is one of our personal favorites. Allow us to explain. Leading up to Translucent's last blaze of glory, he basically tells Huey he'll never be the hero. Huey mostly ignores him, but later when Translucent gets out of his cage, he has to come face to face with the thing he fears most, getting his hands dirty. So it's only appropriate that there's a poster hanging neatly between them that says, "Keep your hands clean." A poster which, by the way, is ironically already filthy. As Huey listens to the threats of a dangerous soup, you can see him begin to realize that the only way to become the hero in this realm is to, in fact, get your hands dirty. And that's probably why he glances at the poster on the wall right before pushing that button and officially making himself the hero that Translucent thought he wasn't capable of becoming. Season 1 lays the foundation for the characters and the roles they'll play for the rest of the series. And in Episode 6, we finally get to find out a little bit more about Kimiko. At the same time, eagle-eyed fans and hardcore theorists get winks from the show's creators. This starts with Frenchie sitting on the couch partaking in the wonderful American tradition that is Shark Week. Kimiko comes over to join him and, in true Frenchie form, he asks very nicely if she would like him to switch the channel. She shakes her head no. This makes Frenchie ecstatic and he yells, "She likes Shark Week!" to MM. MM responds with a salty and even, I'll call, BuzzFeed. Frenchie then says very faintly, maybe she lived by the water. We took this as a big nod to those who appreciate all the Easter eggs the show's creators leave for us in each episode. It also seems like a playful nudge to some of the more out-there theories that have circulated about the show. But that's not all. As it turns out, this small interaction between Frenchie, MM, and Kimiko actually did end up being an Easter egg. This is confirmed when later in the same episode, it's revealed by Mesmer that Kimiko did live by the ocean as a little girl. Now we all know that Madelyn Stillwell didn't make it to Season 2, but we bet you didn't know that her fate was foreshadowed as early as the second episode of the series. About 12 minutes in, Stillwell pumps milk for her baby at her desk. As she does this, Homelander walks into her office and seems sort of grossed out by it, even though he is definitely not. Stillwell brushes past it and tells Homelander about how hard it is to get a good portion of milk. He replies with, "It's a miracle a woman your age can have a child at all." She continues with her activities and the two have a brief conversation. None of this is irregular for them. But what stands out about this encounter is the fact that, by the end of it, Homelander tells Madelyn to hug your kids tight. You never know what might happen. This seems like a clear foreshadowing of what happens to Stillwell and her baby Teddy at the end of Season 1. As each season of The Boys unfolds, fans are exposed to the diverse range of uses for Compound V. But when the series began, there was very little information given about the compound. All we really knew was that Soups could use it as a sort of stimulant drug. Beyond that, it was this mysterious thing that everyone had a vested interest in getting their hands on. But the show's creators didn't completely leave us in the dark about V's true nature. Believe it or not, they dropped a pretty solid hint in the very first episode of the series. Remember when Madelyn Stillwell was having that meeting about Nubian Prince with her colleague? They're haggling over a few $100 million, and this guy just won't stop trying to save a few bucks. Madelyn insists that the terms of the deal aren't going to change. And that's when her colleague utters the word Compound V. Right as he does, a soup, who we later find out is Homelander, zooms past her high-rise office window. This is the first time Compound V is ever mentioned in the series. So isn't it funny that as soon as the words leave this man's mouth, a superhero flies right by? Well, we certainly thought so, and we also thought it was the perfect way to give the audience a subtle hint into what Compound V is and what role it plays in giving a soup their superhuman abilities. Now, there's no way that we could cover all the tiny details the creators of The Boys have left for fans throughout all 3 seasons, but that's all we've got for now. We hope that you had the good sense to enjoy this installment without an ice-cold Fresca. Unless you wanted to, of course.